Daniels realized a lifelong dream. He organized and conducted the first annual National Gospel Melody Crusade Convention at Houston's Greater Jerusalem Baptist Church. Nationally renowned ministers like Dr. Martin Luther King Sr. and Reverend C.O. Franklin preached during the Crusade Convention, focusing in on issues that Reverend Leo dedicated his life to: bringing souls to Christ, fighting poverty, fighting alcoholism and drug abuse, healing the hurt of humanity. Being a visionary, Reverend Daniels brought in television cameras to videotape this historic event. Now, more than 20 years later, his first and only message to the National Crusade Convention, "The world can survive the fiery furnace experience," is available on video. Reverend Daniels died just days before the 1977 Crusade Convention was to begin. His widow, Mrs. Neveroh Daniels, daughter Leona Daniels Butler, and yours truly, Michael Harris, are proud to present to you Reverend W. Leo Daniels doing what he loved best, preaching the Word of God.
Okay, thank you very much. You know, I'm all excited still, so I want you to pray for me, and I'm praying for you. I'm grateful to God for being here, and we welcome all of you to the world's first National Gospel Melody Crusade Convention. I'm excited to be bringing the first annual message. I have several of my around me here and throughout the audience, theologians, dignitaries, and several of them have advised me that this is an annual message, you know, an address somewhat, and that I'm to, you know, stay cool and, you know, act like it is an address. I'm going to do my best to do that. I promise you several things in the name of the Lord. First of all, our scripture is taken from the 3rd chapter, the book of Daniel. I will not bother to read all of these scriptures, but most of us are familiar with the story of the 3 Hebrew boys. Our message: the world can survive the fiery furnace. To our ministers, missionaries, crusade followers from Houston and other cities and states across this nation, visitors and friends, I come tonight to deliver my first annual message to the National Gospel Melody Crusade Convention, in which the Lord has inspired me to be the founder of. There are some advantages of being involved in something that is a first time ever, and then there are some disadvantages, especially when you are the founder. If you don't watch out, you will either say too much about it, or you will say too little about it. It reminds me of a story I once heard. It was said that a man had a little boy who most people considered as a crazy boy. The man knew the boy was a little off, but being his boy, he was very concerned about his little boy. One day he decided to send his little boy to town to pick up some items, and instructed the boy what he wanted him to get. The little boy had it bad going down the road in the streets just talking to himself. Even if anybody was not around, he would just talk aloud to himself. And the little boy went on to town and went in a store, and he was just looking around, just murmuring to himself. And the man walked up to him and looked at him and said, "That boy there is crazy." The little boy overheard him. And he went on back home. When he got home, he told his father, said, "Dad, you know, the man in the store said I was crazy." Father, somewhat very concerned, said, "Well, you got to go back to town tomorrow." And so the next day, back to town, he said, "I'll tell you what, now follow my instructions, nobody will find out that you were crazy." He said, "Now the reason they know it, you talk too much." He said, "Now just don't say anything." The little boy went back to town, and another man walked up to him and said, "Son, what is your father's name?" He didn't say anything. He said, "Do you go to school?" He didn't say anything. So how old are you? He didn't say anything. So what's your mother's name? He didn't say anything. So the man walked out and said, "You know, that boy is crazy." So he said, "Daddy, I did exactly what you said, and they found out I was crazy anyhow." So it puts you in a terrible position sometime. Either you are saying too much or too little. I would like to look at the purposes of this. Many of you already know the purposes of our crusade: alcoholism, drug abuse, crime, poverty, and supporting education. And the proper handling and support of each one of these purposes will change this whole world. For the first time in our history, governmental agencies as well as independent agencies have joined hands with the church to combat these evil forces that have corrupted our society. Many have asked, where will this crusade convention go from here, or will it continue? Our plans are to have crusades across the nation in various cities. I have already begun to make contact with ministers throughout the nation, and we have several here, and we plan to continue to carry the crusade throughout the nation for an entire year. And then at the end of each year is our intention to have, once again, all of the crusade followers to come together and have a national crusade convention. 75 or 80 acres of land in East Texas to build a Christian outreach center, which will include a rehabilitation center for alcoholics and drug addicts, a senior citizen home, recreation camp for youth and adults, and a freedom farm to feed the poor. It is my dream that one day this multi-million-dollar facility will be built, and this crusade and other great meetings and other conventions can have a permanent meeting ground with your prayers and help, we can do it. I'm glad to see these organizations rendering their support: Texas Commission on Alcoholism, National Clearinghouse House on Alcoholism, Inner City Council on Alcoholism, Alcohol Services Program, PABA, Christian Rescue Mission, Urban League, Houston Police Department, Constable Martinez of Precinct 6, and many others. This world, my dear Christians and friends, is caught up in the fiery furnace. And it's not but one way to survive. Here, when we will elect the President of the United States and many other leaders, I'm hearing people on every hand saying that the right man in the White House will make our nation survive. I wonder, do we really mean that we want the right man in the White House? I'm here to tell you tonight that before we get the right man in the White House, we've got to make sure we get the right man in the red, yellow, green, gray, and blue house. The right man is God. When God is in the house, it doesn't matter whether the Democrats or the Republicans are in control, the nation can still survive. The church can do this. All we have to do is fulfill the Great Commission. I would like to look at our Texas story tonight, the faithful three. Let us not bow. King Nebuchadnezzar was moved to unify the religious worship of his empire. He had a statue of gold made, the image of a man, no doubt, and he set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Everybody was to bow down and worship the golden image. We're going to find out that the faithful three, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, were the only ones that would not bow. I wish they had a witness. The king found that the three Hebrew boys did not bow. The king tried to persuade them to bow lest they be thrown into the fiery furnace. Their answer was, the God we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace. Therefore we will not serve thy God. They were brave men and men of faith. This is faith that is demonstrated to the highest. The king ordered the fiery furnace to be heated 7 times hotter. He ordered the men to cast them into the furnace. It was so hot until the men who cast them in were killed by the heat. When the king Nebuchadnezzar looked at the furnace, he noticed 4 men standing there instead of 3, and none of them were hurt. They were set free, and their God was considered the real God. Many of us tonight have been cast into the fiery furnace. But let us not bow, my dear Christian friends. Let us not bow. I don't care if food stamps, I don't care if welfare, I don't care if job corps, old folk pension, GI bills, and all of these are cut off. We can survive if we trust in God. I would like for you to know that there are some biblical characters that would not bow. Paul and Silas could have bowed in the Philippian jail, but for some strange reason to some people, they would not bow. Not only that, but many of the apostles at various points could have bowed, but they had something in them that made them take a stand and not bow. Mary and Martha could have bowed, and no doubt their brother would have been still in the grave at that point, but they would not bow. Not only do we have to go back in biblical history, but my dear Christian friend, There are some modern day men who would not bow. There are some men that we know right here in our day that would not bow. Our very own, who was with us on Monday night, Dr. Martin Luther King Sr., could have bowed, but he wouldn't. Dr. Martin Luther King Sr. certainly could have bowed in the fiery furnace of hate when his son and were slain by sick-minded persons who were the products of the evils that exist in our society. He decided not to bow to hate, but today he is one of the world's strongest advisors by practicing love, living and teaching by precept and example. This was demonstrated at the National Democratic Convention. People all over the world, politicians, religious leaders, seek advice from this courageous man of God simply because Martin Luther King Sr. would not bow. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., his son, did not bow when he was thrown into the fiery furnace of segregation, selfishness, and ignorance. But he did not bow. He initiated a war against these evil forces. He was whipped, beaten, put in jail, ridiculed, but he just wouldn't bow. He was even killed by the hands of men, but he still died refusing to bow. Today, the results, people are going into the front door instead of the back door. People are going to first-class schools instead of second-grade schools because a man wouldn't bow. The great man that spoke for us on last night that we honored, the Reverend C.L. Franklin, could have bowed. Reverend C.L. Franklin, the first black minister to record a sermon on record, to his many comrades who criticized him for commercializing the gospel by recording sermons. He would not bow, for he realized that the record ministry was a means of helping to evangelize the world. He realized that there was a means of fulfilling the Great Commission. He refused to bow to criticism. Today, ministers all over the world, teachers and everybody are spreading the good word of Jesus Christ through recorded sermons and messages. Mr. Don Newcomb, the ex-baseball player and rehabilitated alcoholic, could have bowed. If he had, he could have bowed to the fiery furnace of alcoholism, but he refused to do so. Instead, he decided that his family and friends deserved more of him. He shook the habit, and today he is one of the world's most respected men as he travels all over the country for the government speaking on alcoholism. He's our guest speaker tomorrow night. Let me pause out of the message and tell you to get your tickets. U.S. Senator, Congresswoman Barbara Jordan could have bowed when confronted with the fiery furnace of discrimination against blacks and women. But she refused to bow, and just recently, during the National Democratic Convention, she became the first black and the first woman to address the convention in a keynote address simply because she refused to bow. Mahalia Jackson, the world's greatest gospel singer, was contacted on every hand just before Mahalia died to meet Mahalia Jackson in Chicago. She came out, was preaching. Fine woman. Many dollars were offered to Mahalia to sing rock and roll, but she refused to bow. She died as a multimillionaire, singing songs like I Done Got Over. She died a multimillionaire simply because she would not bow. She died a multimillionaire singing a song, I'm going to move on up a little higher. She died singing a song, Go Tell It on the Mountain. She wouldn't bow. Many young ladies in our world today are in the fiery furnace of prostitution. Some young men are in the fiery furnace of pimping. Some are in the fiery furnace of bad marriages, common law marriage. Somebody's in the furnace of alcoholism, the fiery furnace of poverty, others in the fiery furnace of ignorance, and yet others are wandering in the furnace of sin. But if you let Jesus in, the fourth man, he will deliver you. God is still able to deliver. He will sustain you. Just don't bow. I think the Christian's going to have to lead out in this movement and tell the world not to bow. Do you not know, my Christian and friend, Jesus could have bowed when man was lost in sin and needed somebody to redeem him. Jesus could have bowed, he could have bowed during the crucifixion, but he did not bow. He could have bowed when they were nailing nails in his hand. He could have bowed when they spat on him. He could have bowed when they pierced him in his side and blood came streaming down. But he did not bow. Jesus paid it all, and we owe him. If Jesus, my dear Christian friend, there would be no salvation. If Jesus had bowed, there would be no peace in mind. If Jesus had bowed, there would be no holy Bible. Wouldn't be no need to read the 23rd Psalm if Jesus had bowed. If Jesus had bowed, it wouldn't be no need to even consider the Beatitudes. The 10 Commandments would be useless if Jesus had bowed. If Jesus had bowed, there would be no prayer meeting. And I wonder what Sister Ruby McLean would do when there wouldn't be no prayer meeting on Tuesday night. If Jesus had bowed, there would be no forgiveness. I want to do a have a witness. You know, if Jesus had bowed, my dear Christians and friends, there would be no love. If Jesus had bowed, my dear preachers and friends, we could close up our baptizing pools, for there would be no need to baptize if Jesus had bowed. Is that right? If Jesus had bowed, deacons, you could take up the Lord's Supper table and build a fire with it, because there wouldn't be any need to observe the Lord's table or the Lord's Supper if Jesus had bowed. Is that if Jesus had bowed, those many members who bring the tithe on Sunday, if Jesus had bowed, you could buy you some alcohol with it. You could go and gamble with your tithe if Jesus had bowed. Is that right? If Jesus had bowed, there would be no mercy. But thank God tonight he did not bow. Is that right? And I'm glad tonight that Jesus would not bow. And I think tonight that too many of us are going around in the world bowing to evil forces in the world. Is that right? And I announced previously that I was going to illustrate to this world and nation that we do not have to bow. Is that right? If you'll excuse me tonight, I would like to illustrate the fiery furnace. Is that right? And I would like to end it up by saying that this whole world can survive the fiery furnace. Is that right? You might not have already been thrown into the fiery furnace, but keep on living, young people. And I stop by to tell you that you can survive the fiery furnace. Is that right? And you might be in the furnace of prostitution, but if you will not bow, the fourth man will step in. Is that right? And you might be in the fire furnace of hate. Is that right? But if you make up your mind tonight not to bow, oh Lord, I stop by to tell you tonight that God will sustain you. Oh Lord, and I got to close here, but I want to pause here and illustrate that fire furnace. Oh Lord, did you not know that Nebuchadnezzar must have been a mean man? Is that right? He must have been a mean-hearted man to throw somebody alive in a fire furnace. Isn't that right? He set up the golden image. Oh Lord, and I can hear him say, anybody who will not bow, I'm going to throw them into the fiery furnace. Oh Lord, you know there's always somebody that will not bow. Isn't that right? Somebody will bow for anything. Y'all are not playing with me. Yes, my Lord. Somebody will bow to anything. Somebody will bow for money. Oh Lord, yes, my Lord. But the news went out that day to Nebuchadnezzar, said, everybody, we have brought you a report, Nebuchadnezzar. And oh king, we have brought you a report, yeah. Said, everybody has bowed down. But we have 3 Hebrew boys, yeah, that refuse to bow. Oh Lord. And Nebuchadnezzar said, bring them here. I want to try to persuade them to bow, because it's not my will to throw them in the fire furnace. Oh Lord. When they walked up to where Nebuchadnezzar was, the old king said, I heard that you all were not going to bow. Oh Lord. Yes, my Lord. They lit up the fire furnace. The fire began to blaze a little bit. Oh Lord. The 3 Hebrew boys said, we are not going to bow, because the God we serve, he's able. He's able. Yes, my Lord. The God we serve is able to stand by. They said, we're not going to bow. And Nebuchadnezzar got some of the strongest men and said, we're going to cast you in the fire furnace. And they kept on preaching, we will not bow. And Nebuchadnezzar's men started walking toward the 3 Hebrew boys. One of them was a spokesman. Oh Lord. He said, I'm going to throw you in the fire furnace. Oh Lord. And Nebuchadnezzar said, my men, go get them. Yeah, and put them in. They got Shadrach, and Shadrach didn't want to go. Oh Lord. The old king said, carry them on anyhow. Shadrach said, I'm not going to go. And they began to carry him onto the fire furnace. Yes, my Lord, good God Almighty, they lit up the fire. Shadrach was pulling back on every hand. Isn't it cruel of a man to put somebody in a burning fire furnace? Oh Lord, yes, my Lord, yes. Meshach and put him in also. Yes, my Lord. And the old king was standing there giving out his own. Oh, Lord. And but he made up his mind that the God I serve is able. He's able. He's able. They put Meshach in the fire furnace. Yes, my Lord. And there was one more. The smoke was Meshach and Shadrach had already gone. Abednego must have been the narrator. And he said, just before you put me in, Mr. King, let me say a word. Oh, Lord, the God I serve, the God I serve, the God I serve, the God I serve, He's able. The God I serve, He's able. And they took Abednego and took him all the way to the fire furnace. And as he made a step, he wrote a brand new song. He said, Lord is with me. Yes, my Lord. You may take me to the fire furnace, but every step I make, the Lord is going with me. Yes, my Lord. He's holding my hand. Yeah, I know He's able. He's able. He's able. And He's able. And He's able. Yes, He's able. And yes, He's able. Yeah, He's able. Good God Almighty. They put Him in the fire furnace. Yes, my Lord. They turned it up a little bit higher. They turned it up a little bit higher. Yeah, I know He's able. I know He's able. I know He's able. Yes, He's able. I know He's able. Lord, He's able. Yeah, 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 yeah. They heart got that day and began to jump up and down. Oh, yeah. They stayed there and Nebuchadnezzar looked around. Fourth man there. Yes, my Lord. It must have been standing by. If you get in the fire furnace, God will. God will. God will. I know He will. He'll walk with you. He'll talk with you. The men got out of the fire furnace. Nebuchadnezzar said, set them free. Set them free. The God we serve, He's able to deliver you. I know He's able. Yeah, 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 yeah. Ah, yeah. Yes, He's able. Yeah, yeah. Do you believe He's able? 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 Yeah! 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 Ah, yeah! Yes, He's able. I know He's able. I tried Him. I tried Him. Have you ever tried Him? Have you ever tried Him? I tried the Lord. I tried the Lord. Oh! I know He's able. I know He's able. He'll pick you up a little bit higher. He'll pick you up a little bit higher. I know He's able. 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 I'm trying out the Lord. Lord, can't hold my tears. I keep on burning. Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. I can't hold my feelings. Lord God, He's all right tonight. Isn't He all right? He's all right. Every night, something get a hold of me. Something has got a hold to me. In this life, it gets dark here. In this life, you can't hardly feel your way. Oh, it's so dark in the valley. I have to feel my way. So dark in the valley. Yeah, 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 yeah. I have to feel my way. It might be somebody here tonight. It ought to be somebody. You might be wrapped up in a pile of fun. You know, I think everybody ought to have a song. Yeah. Even if you can't sing, you ought to have a song anyhow. Yeah. Every Christian tonight ought to have a song. Yeah. Ought to have a song. Oh, how many children? Yeah. Precious Lord. The door's open. Go ahead. Take my hand. Lead me on. Let me stand